Evening all, welcome to session number 3 in our Redfearn's Bar live series with Barnsley Football Club Supporters Trust. If you're tuning in for the first time, you've missed live interviews with Paul Heckingbottom and Brian Howard so far. These are all readily available on our Trust YouTube channel, so you can watch these at any time. Sorry, we've still not nailed this technical side of things. We're thinking we're getting better and better. Was going to be the script on the technology side, but that just went wrong. So hence the new Max and Paddy headset that you'll see as we're trying to get the sound better and better each time. So please bear with us. We've turned this around in days rather than weeks. So you're experiencing every hurdle and every bump with us live and raw as it happens. Anyway, moving on to tonight. For your Barnsley FC Sporting Eyes and Ears, we've got a very, very special guest, at least for me anyway. If Brian Howard turned into a sir after that goal against Leeds United, I don't know what term I was using to describe this former striker between 2004 and 2008. All I can say is the love was definitely very, very real. So, evening, Daniel. How are we doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on and giving us your time. It's really appreciated. I promise that'll be the only fanboy moment for the next 45 minutes.
That's all right. I don't mind. I like the shirt in the background. It's great.
I turned it around just for you. So what are you up to now, and how's the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks in lockdown been for you?
Honestly, lockdown's been great. I think I've spent more time with my family, the kids. Obviously, staying home, being careful, staying safe, not seeing anyone else. But it's been nice to have some, bit more one-on-one time with the kids and the missus. Obviously, not the best circumstances. I'm working from home as well, which is I'm able to work from home because I work in financial advice now, so I help people with their their savings, their investments, their pensions, and look after their protection as well, the life cover, the skills cover, that kind of thing. So it's been quite a smooth transition to working at home, and like I say, it's been nice to spend a bit more time with the kids.
And I spoke to Howie earlier, and he told me he'd put you in touch with one of his players, and he wanted me to make sure that I told you he's still giving you all the assists like he used to.
Oh yeah, he's the assist king, isn't he, Howie? To be fair, I love playing with Howie. He was brilliant. That left foot of his was immense, and he put a few on a plate for me over the years. So yeah, he's still doing it today, which is great. He's a great good pal to have, and obviously he introduces a few of his clients to me, and it's a pleasure to be able to look after them on the financial side as well.
And in that financial side, are you working with ex-footballers or current footballers quite often?
Yeah, so I mean, predominantly my client base does tend to be footballers. Obviously, I don't discriminate. I like to work with anybody and everybody. So anyone wants to have a conversation, feel free to get in touch. But no, I've got a lot of football clients now, working with them to help prepare them for life after football. A few ex-players as well, a couple of the ex-Barnsley players that some of you guys may know. Obviously can't mention any names, but it's good to be able to help them out and look after them in circumstances which they're not used to doing. It's what my expertise now is financial planning rather than football.
Nice. So so the way this works is we've got all these questions have come from the fans. So we've gone out and then I've just put them in an order that kind of tries to make sense and that you're happy with. But before we go into those, just something we've been asking everyone is what do you do about the current season if you're in charge? Are you going to play it out do you want to play behind closed doors? What would you do?
It's a tricky one. I suppose it all depends on who you support. I mean, I'm sure if you're a Man United fan, Man City fan, you want to cancel it now because Liverpool don't win the league. If you're a Barnsley fan, you might think, finish now because you're going to definitely be in the Championship next year. It's a real difficult one. And to be honest, it's probably not the most popular answer, but I just think you've got to get it done. Finish the season, whether it's behind closed door or not. I think it's the only right way to go about things, and hopefully the teams that I hold close to my heart can do the business and either stay up or get promoted.
It's interesting because that's 3 out of 3 now for trying to make sure it finishes. So I think it shows where footballers' heads are at. The other topical thing in football is VAR. Now, as a striker who some might say was offside too often, I try and say he used to hang on the last millimetre of the defender. Are you a VAR supporter or hater?
Yeah, I would say that is a polite way of putting that. I was offside an awful lot. I'm unsure. I just think there needs to be a bit more clarification around it. I think there needs to be more consistency around it. I think the offside where it's an inch and stuff like this is just pathetic. I think if it's a clear daylight between the players or whatever it may be, there needs to be a bit more consistency where the players, aren't pulling their hairs out and fans are going celebrating before they can even, been verified as a goal. So for me, there's a place for it, but it's not right at the moment. There's plenty of work to be done before it gets right. I could have done with it in my day because I'd have scored a lot more goals, obviously, because the Lions got it wrong.
I agree. You won't find me arguing. So I think it'd be slightly amiss if we didn't start back when you signed for United. So going back before you joined the Reds. So you started on the books of Wolves, and then you joined Man United. I don't know whether you were 17/18, but how much interaction did you have with Sir Alex when making that decision to go to Old Trafford?
Well, the funny thing is with that is my parents met with Sir Alex when United were playing West Brom or Birmingham away, as you can probably imagine. I'm from the Midlands with the accent. My mum and dad went to a hotel in the Midlands area. I met with Sir Alex Ferguson at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning before a game that United had in the afternoon. I think it might have been West Brom, I'm not sure. I was a 14, 15-year-old kid at the time, and they shows the level, how thorough he was in trying to get the players or whatever it may be and getting them into the club. And yeah, it was a massive influence for the reason why I signed for United. The simple fact that they took the time to meet with my parents, and I signed there a year later.
Yeah, I think Alex Ferguson had a reputation for that, so that's another good one to hear. And what was it like that first day you reported for training as a Manchester United player? Was it surreal? How did you handle it?
Honestly, as a young 16-year-old kid, you just take it as it is. It's like, for me, it was just normal. I knew I was going to sign there. I had a contract offer before I even took my GCSE exams, so I knew before I took my exams I was going to sign for United on a 3-year deal. And it was just like, it was normal. And it's only now that I really appreciate that. Geez, I walked into United and there was like Keane, Beckham, Scholes, all these players there, and I'm just walking in and starting to train it as a job. And I didn't realise how lucky I was at that age. But now, looking back on it, it was monumental. It was a great experience. I was very lucky to be able to do
it. And which of the players were in the youth team at the same time as you during that time, during that spell?
So I suppose the biggest name was probably Darren Fletcher. He's the one who probably went on and did the best. Clearly did the best. He had a fantastic career, loads of trophies at United. I was with Alan Tate as well, Swansea, played all the leagues with Swansea. Danny Pugh, and there's a few other players around that, like Danny Webber was Bojan Djordjic was the year above. John O'Shea was a couple of years above as well. So, and being in digs, when you're in the digs in Manchester and moving up from the Midlands, it was you're in around all these players all the time. So it was great. It was, like I say, an amazing experience.
And how old were you when you made your Champions League debut? I think it was Maccabi Haifa, wasn't it? And did any of the experienced United pros look after you, or did they try and make it more difficult? How did that work?
No, it was great. I still remember that. The thing I remember about that is we were playing Maccabi Haifa, but we were playing in Cyprus because there was something going on, conflict with the war or whatever, over in Israel. So we played in Cyprus. So we flew over to Cyprus, but we stayed on UK time. And I thought that was really weird at the time. So it was 9 o'clock at night, Cyprus, but we were 6 o'clock, and we stayed in our own routine. But thinking back, it's a really clever way of doing it. So everything at United was just nailed on. It was fantastic. But in terms of the players, I remember getting a few pep talks before the game. I think Scholes, he said something to me. He said something to me while I was on the pitch as well. And I took a shot at goal. He said, keep it up, keep on going, go for it. And Fergie, after the game, had a pop at a couple of the other strikers, said that Nardiello did more than you in 20 minutes than you did in the whole game. So it was a bit of confidence boost as well, which was good.
Oh, nice. And then just last question on Manchester United. How much interaction did you have with Roy Keane, and how did it go for you?
So he got the best out of the players in training, I can tell you that much. I remember a couple of times when he's gone absolutely mental when the passing drill wasn't correct. Simple passing drill, someone messed up, he went crazy. But on top of that, I think we played a couple of games in as well. The leadership he showed on the pitch was just phenomenal. I remember he played a Resi game and he was coming back from injury, and it was just great to have him, playing alongside us. And it was constant encouragement and demanding the best of us, which is what, as everyone knows, proper leader. He's obviously his performances and his medals speak for themselves. And even after that, when I remember playing for Barnsley, we played Sunderland, they beat us 2-0. He came over to me after the game, put his arm around me, said, "Keep on going, keep working hard, and you'll have a good career." And to me, one of the best pros I ever had the pleasure of playing with, albeit a couple of games.
So moving on to your time with Barnsley. So I know I mentioned this to you on email. I don't know if you're aware or not, but we think you're the only player in our history that's been signed by 4 different managers, and
probably.
and our resident Oakwell historian has backed that up and told us we're right. So moving on to that debut, it was something of a whirlwind. How quickly does that move happen? How much time did you have to think about it? And did you know that you were going to sign and start, or just tell us what went through your mind and how did it work?
It was a whirlwind, to tell you that much. I went into United in the morning, trained in the morning. The coaches told us we're doing an afternoon session as well. So we train in the morning, have some lunch, come out, train in the afternoon. As training's going on in the afternoon, I get a called in. So halfway through training, and Fergie says, "Barnsley want to sign you on loan. We think you should go. There's a game tonight. Get yourself over to Barnsley. You're going to be on the bench." I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." So no argument. So I'll get myself over there. They send me certain bits of information via email, how to get there, etc., etc. And it was crazy. And as soon as I turn up at Oakwell, I'll get into the change room, and the gaffer, John Thornton, said, "You're playing. You're starting." I was like, "Oh, I thought I was on the bench. I've literally done 2 sessions today. I was stiff. I was tired." And yeah, I said, "Okay, fine, go with it." And then it was just running on adrenaline, I think, because it was my first game. Obviously, it was under lights, which was fantastic. The atmosphere was great, and I got off to a cracking start. I think Ozzy put a great ball in, and I managed to smash it in the top corner, and then obviously got another goal in the second half. I can't remember who got the assist for that one, but yeah, I scored 2 goals, 1-3-0, and I remember getting subbed off, and I was absolutely knackered. Literally 2 sessions and a 70 minutes. It was great, and I couldn't have dreamed of a better debut, to be honest.
I think you got the assist for the third goal, for the other goal as well. I think you laid it on a plate for Stallard.
I did, yeah, I remember that. I didn't want to big myself up too much, but yeah, it was the best debut I could have dreamed for. Really, it was great.
It's all right. I'll do the bigging up. So fine. So good. John Thornton was that first manager that signed you, and it felt like, I mean, it's going back a few years, but it felt like he was genuinely quite liked by the fans when he came in. Was that the case within the squad? How did you find him as a manager?
I loved him. I thought he was great. He kept his distance. It was a professional relationship, let's put it that way. But he had his like dry humour, and I really liked him. I thought he was honest. He had a certain way he wanted to play, and he was nothing but good to me. And he helped me, along my career, really, a lot, and I really appreciate what he's done.
And how did he differ to Paul Hart, who took over in March and then went on to sign you on a season-long loan that summer?
Yeah, it's nothing personal against Paul Hart, but there was nothing I could do to get in that team, no matter what. No matter how hard I worked, what I did, I physically went in and asked him what I could do. I really don't know why he signed me. I think it was more for the loan. I mean, I think it was for the season-long loan. I think it was just simply for the fact that the fans wanted me there. I know that the chairman and the backroom staff, in terms of like the board, etc., wanted me there. Obviously, I'd done well on my previous loan spell. He just never gave me a chance, never played me, and it was probably the most frustrating time of my career, because I knew I could be doing something on the pitch, and he just wasn't willing to give me a try. And I have no idea, no reason why he did that to this day.
And then Andy Ritchie was the third manager to sign you, and he made that move permanent. Made that Barnsley move permanent because I think your contract had expired at United.
Yeah.
Was that a move in your head that was always on the cards, and was it an easy decision to make?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I had a bit of interest from a few clubs. As you say, United, my contract had come to an end. And to be honest, I loved Barnsley, loved being at Barnsley. I loved the lads, I loved the fans, I loved the atmosphere we had in the changing room. And I just thought, you know what, this is the next step for me. I still live in Manchester, travel over. It was a perfect move for me. And yeah, it was a no-brainer, really. And although I had a couple of offers elsewhere, for me it was a no-brainer. Sign for Barnsley and try and build from there.
And did you have a good rapport with Andy Ritchie? And do you think that year under him was your best spell as a Barnsley player?
I think the final 10 games of the season probably was. I think it was. Well, no, actually, I think the final at the end of the season, the following year was pretty good as well. When we stayed up, that was, I scored quite a lot of goals in that time. But it was a special time, Barnsley, just because I think everything just worked. The lads, the banter we had in the change room, I'm sure I'm not going to be the first person to say this, but all the rapport the lads had together was fantastic, and the fans were great. It just clicked, and we were young. It was a great atmosphere to be in and around, and we were successful, which obviously also helps.
And when Andy Ritchie convinced you to sign, was that with promotion in mind? I mean, obviously he's going to say that, but was that a genuine belief within the squad that year?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think 100%. I think for me, with the quality we had, we should have got promoted. We had some great players, and I think wasn't too surprised that we did it. I know we went about it the hard way for the playoffs, but I fully expected us to do it because I believed in our ability as a team.
And then you see in your total Barnsley career, you scored 31 goals, and there's many memorable ones which we'll come on to a little bit later. But do you personally think there was never a better moment than that third goal away at Huddersfield in the semi-final?
Yeah, for me, yeah. I mean, I think someone tweeted it today, didn't they? And I watched it about 5 times. It still get goosebumps watching that. It was. I think I was pissed off that. Excuse my language. I was annoyed that
even Howie didn't swear.
That's good going. That's good going. I was annoyed that Howie didn't pass me the ball. He could have passed it to me or Rico, I think it was. But he had a shot. But luckily, Chubbs, I know the goalkeeper of Alamine now, with Paul Hooker was United with. He dropped it right in my path, and then when it just came to it, I just smashed it as hard as I could, and it was luckily for me went roof the net. I just remember the fans going mental. It was a phenomenal feeling, and the fact that booked us a place in the final obviously makes it a little bit more special.
It was me that posted it to social media earlier, and I'd not seen the clip for so long, and I didn't realise how the commentator just before the ball comes off the keeper to you actually says, "Oh, that was a bit greedy."
It's a bit greedy.
Which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah, to be fair, I would 100% have a shot, so I can't blame Howie for having a shot. Funny story about that day as well, because I got my 10th booking that night, and at the 88th minute, it was 10th booking of the season, which usually would mean you miss the next game. So my dad stormed out the stadium. He was fuming. He was like chuntering to my mother. He's an idiot. He's got booked. He's going to miss the final now. So he missed all the celebrations at the end because he stormed off because he was fuming that I missed the final. But luckily, the FA said it didn't count during the off season, so I got away with it and managed to get the final.
Oh God! So you started that playoff final at the Millennium Stadium. Was that one of your most important games in your career to date? And how do you deal with the pressure when the expectation as a striker is that you're the biggest goal threat?
Thank you. It's nice of you to say the biggest goal threat. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I suppose I didn't feel pressure as a footballer. I think you've done it for so long. You play. It's just something you love, and you just get on with it. I didn't care. I think as a footballer, you've got to be mentally tough anyway. If you can't handle a little bit of pressure in the big games, I don't think you'd be, particularly make it. I think there's players that have struggled with that in the past, which is why they haven't gone as far as they could have. But for me, I didn't feel any pressure. I felt more pressure at my wedding speech when I had to do that in front of a couple hundred people, but playing in front of 60,000, no problem at all. It was great, and it was, again, what a day, fantastic.
So we got promoted, and I said this to Howie on Tuesday, but Andy Rich didn't last long in the job when we got promoted to the Championship. Was that a surprise to you at the time? And how did it affect your Barnsley career transitioning to Simon Davey as your fourth manager at the time?
I suppose I'm never shocked in football. With not playing a game or managers getting sacked or being dropped completely from a team, whatever. But I'm never surprised because there's been plenty of times where you think something's going to happen, the complete opposite happens. I loved Andy Ritchie. He was, he had a great couple of seasons with Barnsley. We were obviously struggling in the league that year. So any team that's struggling, there's always the chance that the manager's going to go, because that's always the first person to go, isn't it? Is the manager. So it was obviously sad to see him go. Him and Rick Holden, really got on with them. They were one of the main reasons we had such a good atmosphere in the changing room. But Simon Davey came in. He had a completely different kind of philosophy, way of playing. He wanted to get us all super fit. We did a lot of physical work to get us running, and it worked a treat. I think gave us a little bit extra that managed to stay up that season, and I was lucky enough to play quite a few games towards the end of the season where I managed to score a few important goals, which is again great for me on a personal level, but also for the team at the time.
So you had a good relationship with Simon Davey then? It was a good relationship, positive one.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I think obviously when I left, I don't think it was so positive. It was, which I'm sure we'll come to at some point tonight. But yeah, I think he was a good coach, good manager. I've got no ill feelings towards him at all. If I was to see him now, I'd have a beer with him, have a chat with him, because it'd be great to catch up. I think he's over in the States, I think. But yeah, he was fine with me. I had no issues with him.
So at this point, and you just alluded to it then a little bit, but the whole point of these calls is not to go negative in any way, shape or form. But I think a lot of Barnsley fans struggled, for the use of a better word, to fully understand that move to QPR in the summer of 2007. Could you tell us now what really happened there, and do you think you might have handled it a little bit differently now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It boils down to money. I got offered a lot more money to go and sign for QPR. It was. I'd have been stupid to turn the figures down. It wasn't, without giving it too many figures away or anything like that. It was a substantial amount of money, with sign-on fees, appearance money, goal bonuses, and just a general wage. It was a really, really difficult decision for me, because I was literally driving up the motorway to sign for Barnsley. Really happy. I'd looked at houses in Barnsley to purchase with my mum the night before. On the internet, we were looking at properties. So I thought, this is me. I'm going to move over to Barnsley, move out of Manchester, start afresh, sign I think it was a 3 or maybe even a 4-year contract. Let's do this sort of thing. And anyway, halfway up the motorway, get a phone call, or my agent gets a phone call of John Gregory at Villa, and basically said, this is what we're going to offer you. They took me down to London. They invited me down to London, put me up in a Mayfair hotel, took me out for the night, offered me this lucrative contract. And ultimately, it was the wrong decision, because I was happy at Barnsley. I was successful at Barnsley. I loved being there, loved the fans, loved the lads, the changing room banter, etc. And it was, looking back, as a 24-year-old and you're offered this kind of money, it's really hard to turn down. I did speak to my dad. He was the one that I always spoke to about things like this. Obviously, he's an ex-pro as well. He told me to sign for Barnsley. However, my agent and a couple of other people I spoke to said, no, you've got to look after yourself financially, and so I listened to them instead of my dad. And I probably, it was better financially, but honestly, probably should have been better. And I've said it numerous times before, to stay at Barnsley and been successful there, because I had a special rapport with the fans and the club. It was great.
So Simon Davey was the last manager. So completing the 4 managers, he was the last manager to sign you. Yeah. And he brought you in on loan from QPR after that infamous move, shall we say, 6 months before. Yeah. Did you have any hesitations at coming back? Were you nervous about what the fans were going to say?
No, I didn't get nervous. Things like that didn't bother me in football. I got a bit of abuse on MySpace back then when I made the move. I got abuse. Things like that, they don't affect me, luckily, because I did get quite a bit of abuse on the social media side. But no, I wasn't nervous. I had a couple of clubs coming after me on the loan move. But for me, I said to my agent, look, if you can get me back to Barnsley, I want to go back to Barnsley. And it was, again, get me back there, hopefully build up a good relationship again with the manager, the players, the fans, and just get it done. And I was delighted to have done that.
And then a couple of questions that came in. Obviously, we then got to a semi-final of the FA Cup, and a lot of fans always ask about this Kyoto Odegaard miss. And someone sent a question through. Yeah. What would Nardiello have done with that?
Scored.
Yeah, well,
We're
But
joking.
how would
Joking,
you how would you have approached that chance with Enkelman in goal?
Do you know, for me, it's a difficult one because Kay did everything right. The ball over the top, I think it was Howie, wasn't it? Howie put the ball over the top as well. I think his first touch, he did everything right. He did everything right. It just didn't hit the target. So I think it is what it is. I bet I know he'd have been gutted at the time that he missed that chance. It wasn't an easy chance. There's no such thing as an easy chance unless there's no keeper. It's had the keeper to beat. But for me, I always tried to shoot her early and shoot low, which he did, but just didn't hit the target. I suppose if you hit the target, you've always got a chance. So yeah, it's a difficult one because we've all missed sitters, we've all missed chances, and luckily for Kay, that was in a semi-final. But there's no guarantee that we'd have gone on to win the game. But it's obviously a big chance.
And another question that came in was, you played 13 games in that last spell and scored 1 goal. Arguably, that was probably your least successful out of the different times you played for Barnsley in different spells. Have you any insight into why that might have been, or do you feel like it was the least successful? Or
no, I mean, there's no doubt it was the least successful because I didn't get as many goals or didn't do that well in terms of what I'd done the previous year or the year before that. So I hadn't played a game for 6 months at QPR. I think sometimes it takes a time fitness to get built back up, whatever it may be. I think that's when I started to really struggle with my injuries as well. Up until that point, I'd been fine, but then that's when I really started to have my hamstring and back problems, which hampered me through my career after that. But I mean, no excuses. It is what it is. I wish I could have stayed and scored more and stayed the following season, but it wasn't to be, unfortunately.
And you went on to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 decent seasons playing for the team, scoring goals. I know you scored a lot of goals for Rotherham, a lot of goals for Exeter, a lot of goals for Bury. Out of those 3 teams, which was the most memorable season that you had post your Barnsley career?
You can't really pick any of the seasons apart from promotion seasons. So although I loved Exeter, I had a great time at Exeter, but we got relegated. So it's not a good memory to have, although it's a beautiful area to live. It was fantastic. Again, I got on with the fans and the players. The changing room wasn't as good as the Barnsley changing room. To be fair, not many changing rooms have been as good as that Barnsley dressing room, if any at all. But we got relegated at Exeter. Promotion at Rotherham was fantastic. I managed to score 20-odd goals in the season, so that was really real big season for me. I birthed my first daughter as well that season, so that was special. So I love my time at Rotherham. Bury was fantastic as well with another promotion. I was top goal scorer there that season as well. So yeah, people always ask me my favourite clubs. And to be honest, my favourite clubs were probably Barnsley, Rotherham, and Bury. I wouldn't put it in any specific order, but I think Barnsley was really special because it was my first proper club after United, and like I say, I had such a good rapport with the fans, and I loved my time there. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's great to hear. So just some general questions. So we've got about 10 or so questions now that are from random different footballing angles. So as a kid growing up, which striker did you look at and want to emulate? Who did Nardiello want to be when he was 10 years old?
Mickey Quinn. I don't know if you guys ever remember him. Mickey Quinn. He was Coventry City striker, because I was born in Coventry, grew up in the Coventry area, went to Coventry every week as a kid. And yeah, Mickey Quinn. He was looking at him now back as a player, as a big back striker, but he just scored goals for fun. I loved him, absolutely loved him.
And you can't pick Mickey Quinn as this next question, but who would you want as your ideal strike partner out of all the players that you played with over your career?
Ideal strike. Do you know, I always like playing with someone physical. So I think when I played up front with Mark Richards at Barnsley, fantastic, because he was physical, won headers, put himself about a bit. Alex Ravel at Rotherham, same big, physical, great in the air, and I could just feed off strikers. Istvan Ferenczi, I suppose, a couple of games we played together, big, strong striker. I like playing just off, like almost in the number 10, just off the striker, and I think that's when I scored the majority of my goals was playing off a big target man. So yeah, if you're looking worldwide, I'd say he's a big, I suppose, a Noel Quinn or a Christian Vieri, that type of player. They were the big brutes that will put themselves about a bit. So the goal scorers, the small men like me could go and feed off them and score goals.
And if you've got Frenchie or you've got Richards up front with you, who are you wanting playing the through balls? Who could read your mind the best? Who could?
Yeah.
And let's rule Brian Howard out, and let's.
Okay, well, I would obviously say Howie, because Howie he was fantastic. He had that forward thinking mentality, and I hated playing with midfield players that just went side to side. Where they could try and an angled ball in behind or out wide, whatever it may be. So he was unbelievable. But I suppose another one in the Barnsley era, Stephen McPhail. He was probably one of the best players I played with. That his left foot was just phenomenal. What a player! Another Barnsley player actually, who I only played a few games with, but wow, what a player! Dean Gorey, incredible. What a player in training, in the game, and I played a handful of games with him, but he always looked for that passing behind as well.
I think he slipped one of the balls through for your debut at Blackpool.
Possibly.
I think you might have done. And then another question that came in was, when you watch matches these days, it sometimes looks like we've got this kamikaze defending going on compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago. Do you look at it and think, God, I could have scored for fun now?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, because I suppose when I was playing, back in the Barnsley years, I think it was defenders like hoofed it. They were clearing the ball, they were getting the ball forward. Whereas a lot more teams now are trying to play out from the back, which is great. But then there's a lot more mistakes, so there is more goals for strikers to be had. So I think maybe the players back when I was playing for Barnsley, the defenders, I should say, that I was playing up against, they're more brutes and they were tough and they were hard. But I love playing against players like that because I was never going to beat them physically. But once I got the ball from my feet, I could probably do them that way. Whereas now, they're more footballers. They've got a bit more pace about them. They've got a bit more technical ability. Whereas back then, like I say, there was some brutes playing centre half when I was playing.
So Howie joked about this on Tuesday night, but this was something that between me and my friends we used to joke about as well. But it seemed like your favourite time to go on a goal scoring run was whenever it was contract renewal time. So your purple patch was always March to May.
Yeah.
Is that something that you realised was happening? Was it just a coincidence, or were you subconsciously giving it a bit more?
To be fair, we've touched on it before. I think at Barnsley it may have looked that way. I think when I scored all my goals at Rotherham, I said I had a 3-year contract, and with Exeter, when I scored the majority of my goals, was in my first year of my 2-year contract. And again with Bury, it was my first year of my 2-3-year contract. So it may have looked that way as a Barnsley fan, but I suppose I put it down. Maybe maybe it's my dad's side, the Mediterranean side in me that wants to play in the sun. It's a bit hotter that time of year. During the winter, I wasn't as clinical as I could have been.
So my favourite Nardiello memory, despite it only being a draw, was the 2 goals at Ellen Road. Is that your best performance in a red shirt? And what other memorable games and goals have stuck in your mind over the years?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a great. If we'd have won that game, I'd say that would top anything, because obviously local derby, we know the atmosphere just insane. And yeah, I think I played up front with Leon Knight that day. I think me and Leon Knight, I know Leon Knight quite well. I think it was Leon Knight. But yeah, I think I scored 2 pretty decent goals. I think I nutmegged someone, didn't I? And then
nutmegged Ugo Egiog.
Was it Egiog? Yeah. And then I did the second goal. Can't remember. I think I did Stephen Craney, who was a player I played with a bit later on. But yeah, that was a great day. Two good goals, great performance from us. Everyone expected us to get beat. I think Dennis Wise was their gaffer at the time, and Simon Davey was ours. And I think we put in a great shift. I think the defence were phenomenal that day, and I managed to get 2 good goals, and probably was one of my better games as a Barnsley player. So yeah, love that one. I think the debut, obviously, because it'll always stick in my mind. And I think we've discussed the main games that I loved. I do remember the Walsall away game, though, for some reason. I won the penalty.
That was the game where we secured the playoff spot.
Yeah, I think I won the penalty, but I had literally probably about 20 or 30 family or friends in the stand in the Barnsley end as well, which made it a little bit more special because they'd all come to watch me because it was local in the Midlands. All my mates from school, and yeah, it was good. I think I always liked scoring against teams from the Midlands because I had where I grew up, there was Coventry fans, West Brom fans, Blues fans, Villa fans. Never scored against Villa, unfortunately. I'd like to have done that, but yeah. So it was always good playing against the local teams from where I was from growing up.
It's funny you should say that, because the next question is someone asked, is it true your mates from Birmingham were in the away end that afternoon when we sent Steve Bruce's league leaders packing with nothing but 0 points thanks to a brilliant goal? I think in the press you said you were particularly motivated for that game. Is that a true story?
It's semi-true. So it was my dad's birthday for a start, so it was his birthday. So it was nice to score the goal against the Blues on his birthday. But it was all my dad's mates that were in the Blues end, his work colleagues and stuff like that. So it was pretty good Monday morning, going in on a Monday morning for my dad, because obviously it was his birthday. All his pals were supporting. His work colleagues were Blues fans, and I managed to score the only goal that beat him 1-0, and then it all kicked off after the game, didn't it? I remember that. There was a bit of a scuffle.
Yeah, it was a bit tasty.
Yeah, and obviously they were I think they still went up that year, didn't they? They were top of the league or up there anyway. And we battered them that day. 1-0, I think, flattered them more than us. So it was a great result to beat top of the table team, and obviously helped us complete that staying up that year. Can
you remember that goal? Because it was a bit of a belter.
Yeah, it was a good finish. I just saw a little angle. I can't remember who the defender was, but I just saw a little angle where I could try and curl it round him into the far corner, and luckily for me, it sneaked in off the post. So yeah, it was a good finish, that one. I didn't score many good goals. I scored typical striker goals, but that was a decent finish. Yeah.
And then I think this is a funny question. So I don't know if you remember when you scored at Tranmere, but the fans broke out into a chorus of "You steal car stereos, we've got Nardiello."
Yeah.
Did you remember when you were on the pitch? Do you remember that chant? And has any other team topped it in terms of creativity?
Yeah, I do remember that, actually. It was a funny one, because I think the Tranmere fans were giving me some stick, to which then the Barnsley fans started singing that song. So it was a good one. That one always stick with me. That one. It was a good chant.
And then just the last 2 or 3 questions. So, which players or managers, because you've obviously played for a raft of different teams, have left the biggest impact in your career? So who would you call out as the biggest influences over the times that you've played?
I suppose, I think it's a tough one, really. There's been some negative influences and some really positive influences. So I suppose the most positive for me, I don't know, it's a really tough question. There's a lot of managers I really liked. So I loved Goodjohn. I loved Andy Ritchie. I liked Simon Davey in terms of the Barnsley managers. Paul Tisdale-Exeter, fantastic man manager. Really liked the way he played football as well. He's a top guy. Steve Evans at Rotherham, he's an interesting character. But I mean, I remember one time after I scored 2 before half time, and he went mad at me for not scoring 3. And I was like, "Gee, I've literally just scored 2 goals. What's wrong?" And there's no in between with him. He's just screaming all the time, no matter what. But you got the best out of players. So I suppose they've all got their own influence in their own different way. Ian Holloway at Blackpool, what a fantastic manager he was as well. Obviously, Fergie United, only played a few games there, but to play under him and have that experience as well, he was second to none. So yeah, I can take positives and negatives from all managers, but I think ultimately it was just I was very lucky to play for as long as I did.
And I know I didn't send you this one in advance, but is there any? Steve Evans is a interesting character in football.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can share with us that just brings to life just how interesting he might be?
There's plenty to be said about Steve Evans. I think you have to be mentally tough to play for that guy. Let's put it that way. I mean, he's a big guy, as you can see. He is what he is, but I respect him a lot more now I've finished playing. Not that I didn't respect him. I respect him a lot now I've finished playing, because he had his methods. He didn't change his methods for anybody, and he's been successful. And we had one of my favourite seasons in promotion underneath him. He's a character. Let's just put it that way, without saying too much. But he's successful in the world of football. Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
No, that's fair. So, I know you're doing the financial advisor stuff now. So, do you see a time when you might get back into football in some capacity? Is that an interest of yours, or are you quite happy being on the outside again now?
Yeah, no interest whatsoever. I couldn't handle working with these young professional footballers. I did my coaching badges. I just couldn't handle footballers. I couldn't have. I mean, people like myself. I'm saying the same. I just wouldn't want to manage young footballers who think they're the bee's knees. They're not all. Not everyone's like that, but it's a difficult job. It's not a secure job being in management or coaching. And for me, I like being outside. I like watching and supporting. Always look at for Barnsley's results, for example. I try and attend a few games here and there as well, and ultimately I stay in football by working with a few of the lads as well. But no plans whatsoever to be a coach or a manager. It's not for me.
And then just last question is, when can we get you to Oakwell again as a guest in the fan zone? So
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to. So 100%. As soon as the season starts back or next season, whatever it may be, I'd love to come along. Obviously, I'll look after a couple of players at Barnsley as well, so get a chance to go and watch them as well. So it'd be great. I'd love to come along. So yeah, whenever you'll have me.
Well, I'll get on email as soon as we've got the season confirmed again. So we'll bring it to a close there. Look, mate, thanks very much for that. That was great. We've got the 8 p.m. applause for the NHS again, with it being a Thursday, so the timing's perfect. Just from my side, a couple of shout outs before we draw it to a close permanently on the stream. So for those of you on Twitter, please give some support to Cawthorne Cricket Club. They're in the last 32 of a virtual cup knockout. I don't know what that means, but I guess that if you can go on Twitter, you can vote for them and get them through to the last 16. And a reminder that all things being well, we're back on Tuesday at 7 p.m. with Neil Redfearn, and again on Thursday with Craig Hignett. So, Nards, thanks again, hero.
Cheers, mate. Enjoyed it.
Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you all on Tuesday.